Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hey, JD, nice to meet you, man.
You too, bud. So what's your clean date?
So I have multiple different ones. I've
Me too.
definitely relapsed a few times over the years. Right now I'm at a little bit over a year.
Congrats.
Yeah,
What
it's
was
it's
what, what was going on before your what is the date?
September 12th.
What was going on September 11th?
My birthday's the 10th. So 11th, I probably bad hangover, you know, and then the 12th decided it was time to do it again.
Did you go to rehab?
No,
No. Have you been to rehab before?
yeah, yeah,
How many rehabs did you go to?
three.
Three. Well, where are you from?
Fresno, California.
Okay, born and raised.
Yeah, born in Porterville, right outside of Fresno. And I lived here till I was 26. And then I spent like 12, 13 years in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, okay. Denver's a cool city. I've been out there.
Yeah, and then I moved back here to Clovis, which is also close to Fresno. And I lived here for 6 years now.
So you bounced around a little bit then in your some of your adulthood.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, what did you discover first, drugs or alcohol?
Uh, I'm going to go drugs because alcohol, I didn't really drink until I was an adult. Like, even when I was younger and there was like alcohol around, like I just wasn't into drinking 30 beers. Like it was never my interest. I like to smoke weed. That was definitely the first one. And then, you know, as things progressed, like eventually alcohol did become a problem. Like alcohol, I had to learn I had to learn that um there is no social anything. Like it just doesn't whatever I do to the best of my ability. And so once the like the addiction issue had been fully triggered, then I was like, oh, I'll just drink. I won't mess with what I like to do. I'll just drink. And then drinking immediately became a problem. And then quitting drinking, then gambling becomes a problem. Quitting gambling, something else becomes a problem. And I just had to learn that my brain is different. I'm wired different, and I can't do these things. Like I cannot.
Yeah, I can
Cannot.
definitely relate. I'm in AA, I'm in NA, I'm in GA. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
so you very similar. Like
Yeah.
when I tell you like I embraced gambling when I was sober so hard, bro, that I mean I was definitely at the time online poker was still legal. This was pre Black Friday 2011, so I was on Poker Stars and Full Tilt Poker full time. And then I played live in casinos during those periods. I played live in casinos a lot afterwards. I've played in the different poker tours, the Heartland and Midwest stuff when I lived in Colorado. But I poker, blackjack became almost an obsession. Like I feel like studying it. Like I read so many books and I was so into poker and gambling and the numbers and followed it all the way up until the last few years. I've really not. I think I've played poker 3 times in the last 6 years, probably.
Yeah, it became a problem for me in Pennsylvania because they legalized sports betting.
Ooh,
And so I used to be just football on the weekends, just Sundays I'd be betting. And then football season ended and I found myself in baseball season betting 7 days a week.
yeah.
And
So I
it became
definitely
a
sports
session.
betting too. Sports betting would have been part of it. I don't even like sports, and I got into football and basketball because I like to gamble
Yeah.
and pick random parlays for whatever
Yeah.
games were going on, and it was weird to experience, to be completely honest, because before this I never had any. I never gambled. I never had these things going on. previously, but like I said, something changes in your brain and you just no longer are, you're no longer able to casually do things.
Yeah. No, I've been doing this podcast for 3 years off and on. And when gambling really took a hold, I stopped doing my podcast because I was so obsessed with watching my sports, watching my bets play out, doing my parlays, and checking scores, checking batters to see what's going on. And I was on my phone on FanDuel for hours, looking at what was going on for my bets.
Yeah.
And I won some money. Don't get me wrong. Like I once I hit a $1,200 bet on a $5. I bet $5 and won 1,200. So I mean, I bet $5, I won 400. There's been some hits, but definitely.
And that brings you, that always keeps you coming back. And that's poker and blackjack were the two games where if you play better, you win. They're the two games that involve, like, if you can understand long-term play and different things and play a certain way each time and know what you're supposed to do each time, you're more equal to the house versus other games where you're just straight gambling, dice, roulette, just throwing numbers in the air. Let's hope this comes down,
Yeah, I once would roulette. Because you can do roulette online too. And there was a night I was up like $120. This was a few years ago. I was up like 120, and it was like 1 a.m. No sports were on, and I was like, "Fuck it, let me just see what's going on in roulette." And at one point, I was up $2,100.
Yeah.
2 hours later, I was down to zero.
Yeah.
And
been there.
Like
mine's dice, so I don't roulette. I never quite fully. I'll do a couple numbers for fun here and there, but dice, so I would go play poker until I would like win a decent chunk of money so that I could go play dice.
Mm-hmm.
Because dice is all gamble. It's all adrenaline, and it's like, there's zero thinking to it. Pick numbers, throw dice, and that was what I really enjoyed to do, and that's how I got the money to play dice. Was I'd play poker for hours before, then finally take the winnings and lose it all playing dice.
Now, did you attend any meetings at Quick Gambling?
What?
Did you attend any like GA meetings at Quick
So
Gambling?
I've never been to a GA meeting. I do know, so the AA and NA meetings that I used to go to, there was other people in there that now that I'm an adult many years later, I remember them specifically talking about how much they enjoyed going to the casino and like slot machines and this and that, scratchers, whatever this guy was rambling about, on a couple different occasions. And at the time, I didn't think nothing of it. I was just like, oh, cool, dude got himself a new hobby and not drinking or doing drugs, whatever the meeting was. And it would be later that I found out that a lot of people end up switching to gambling. Like
I did.
The endorphin rush is the same.
Yep, I definitely found that to be true. I go to GA because they're all the same. They're all just replacing the word alcohol with drugs, or replacing the word gambling with that.
I found NA to be the one.
I attend NA 5 days a week.
So that one for me, I'll go to those. The people are more accepting. I found Alcoholics Anonymous to be not accepting of any other thing but alcohol. Like they all want to cry about beer and this and that, and they don't want to say that they're addicts, like drug addicts. They feel like they're better because they're just on alcohol.
Yeah, they don't want to. So I was going when I had my relapse this past year with benzos and weed. I was attending AA at first, but I was getting a lot of looks, like disproving looks, because I was talking about drugs in AA, and they don't want to hear about drugs in AA.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up finding a good NA meeting on Zoom that I attend Monday through Friday at noon now.
Oh, that's a great idea. I never even thought of that they would have them on Zoom.
Yeah, I do it every day at 12 o'clock Eastern. And it's a
At some
great.
point, I'd like to ask you further about that when we're done with this or something.
Yeah, I can send you the information. It's awesome, man. It's every day from 12 to 1. It's based out of Providence, Rhode Island, and it's got some really good recovery in there. My sponsor just hit 30 years
Oh,
the
good.
other day, and he's my sponsor, and we're going through the steps together.
I'd absolutely like to get back into it and do all that. Have a sponsor and
Yeah, I do GA, and I found a meeting based out of Las Vegas. Because I figure who has better recovery than people that are living in Las Vegas and quit gambling.
yeah,
So
shoot, I couldn't live there.
yeah, exactly. So I found a good GA meeting based out of Vegas, figuring I can learn a lot from them, considering that they live around gambling.
Yeah.
And I'll send you that information too. It's a really good meeting on Saturdays at 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time, which works out perfect for me because I like going to 12 noon meetings. On Sundays, it's 11 a.m. my time, 8 a.m. Pacific. But really good groups, though, that I've liked so far.
Good.
So you discovered weed first, you said?
Yeah, definitely weed first, and then weed only for, let's see, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. A good 6 years, probably. 6 years, I probably only smoked weed, and um, I don't even know. You could probably count on one hand the number of beers I drank in that period of time. I didn't like it or enjoy it. I was 16, found weed. Then around 18, I started working around 16 too. I worked with framers, carpenters, and stuff. And then around 18, I got hired by the city of Fresno Police Department, and I was a maintenance service worker. So I was like a building repair guy, janitor for the community services and police department. So I was like in all sorts of police buildings and stuff. And after my first or second year there, I was promoted to adult offender work program supervisor. And so I got all the criminals who had done nonviolent crimes and had community service hours to work off. Well, all of those dudes were like big time drug dealers, and they were just working off community service hours for whatever case they were. I remember one was a stolen computer, and one was a small possession case, and I ended up meeting like about 6 or 7 dudes who all knew each other, and they were like definitely in the higher up world of local drug dealers, and all of them paid or did something favors to have their program go smoothly. And so that's how I got. I mean, and dude, that was a once in a lifetime situation. That's like basically like somebody just was like, here's a book with every single drug dealer's phone number in it, all their personal information, and they they need you or they're going to jail. And so these dudes sold me cars, just all. I mean, did also several of them became like long-term friends, and probably if I ever bumped into them still today, would still be some sort of friends. They were good dudes. One guy owned a barber shop, messed with him for 15 years, and he had like warehouse grows of pot. So I got into like small mid-level pot sales, like a few pounds a month, 5 pounds a month ish. That was through my like teens and 20s, and then around 26 was the big boom for OxyContin. And so then I was like already connected with all these drug dealers, and at the time, dude, it was crazy because not a soul knew what it was. And so 80s were at that time, one at a time was $5 a piece, but they were selling them. I was getting them for way less than that, $1.75 a piece. And I had a really a different level connect at that point. So then I really jumped into that because they were going for 10, 20, the farther north into the nice part of town you got, the more they were worth. And so I had the luxury of, because of where I worked and where I grew up, that I lived on the nice side of town, but then I worked on the bad side of town and I knew every drug dealer in
Yeah,
Fresno,
I
in
remember
Fresno on a
when they came.
personal level. And so that the Oxycontin's where I first tried real drugs, and then actually like large amounts of, and again, not nothing crazy, but for one person with no education who, if I was working, I made $15 an hour. Like I had a couple new cars and, I had a truck and rented a nice house and stuff. Like I made okay money. And the weed was okay money too. And then the Oxycontin just hit like a train. I didn't do it for a while. And then when I started doing it, one of those 80s would last me a couple of days, even a week, like just little scritchy scratches. And then it got to be one a weekend. And then it was one on Friday and one on Saturday. Then it was one, one, one. Then it was 7 days a week. And then it was many, many of them a day. And I would say that at the peak, when I was at my peak and the Oxycontin was available at its peak, that my habit would have been unaffordable by most junkies. Like I had a different level of connection and prices and habit. And so then it starts to dry up as it becomes crazy popular and they start realizing doctors are overprescribing this crazy stuff that nobody should have had in the first place. The
Yeah,
original, so here's the original, like the, yes, it was a popular, and yes, drug dealers were selling it, and yes, they did give it to me, but my original knowledge of it came from, I was at work at the city of Fresno loading trash into a dump truck, and I fell over backwards off the truck, and I was given a prescription. And at the time, bro, back then, I was 19 years old. I was not hurt. I was not hurt. They gave me the tallest orange bottle full of yellow Norcos that you could be given. And then I had them on the shelf and I ate a few of them. I didn't notice anything, but my stomach got real upset. And I told the doctor something. I said, oh, yeah, these shits upset my stomach, so I don't eat them. I still got them all. He's like, oh, I'm going to give you this one. This one don't have this in it. You'll be fine. And he gave me like 10 oxys, the 10s, little white ones. And that was when I first learned, like, oh, these can be abused. Because somebody at work, and I had them for a while, I didn't take them, nothing. And somebody at work said, you got what? And I was like, yeah, I got a bottle at the house. He's like, bro, I'll give you $100 right now. And I was like, for those pills. And it was, 20 of them or whatever they gave me. And um, that's when I realized that people bought them and abused them and they were valuable. And then shortly after that, you know, and I had tried one or two and they just kind of made me sleepy, but then the oxys were like way better and they made me like awake and feel like superhero. Like I felt like Superman. And so then when those ran out and they wouldn't refill them anymore, that's when, I started paying more attention. And then that's when the homies were like, yo, we got these 80s from, 10s. And then it just went from there. I mean, and over the years, I saw it all. And
I remember when I first got into them, they were $40 for an 80. And
so I'm talking like when I say like I was the beginning, like I was the beginning for like the county almost because of just
yeah,
how many people I knew And when I started, they were under $5. And not
Yeah.
only that, but people didn't even know what they have. They'd give me a whole bottle of them for $100. They'd give me a whole bottle of 80s for $100. And I had, dude, at some point I must have had 100 different
This was
people.
this is like the late 90s.
Early 2000s.
Okay.
Early 2000s. 2003, 4.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and then
then, um, and then let's see, at some point there, I was arrested for weed, for, possession of weed, and I had money in a scale.
which
And
is paraphernalia.
yeah, the whole thing. This one was crazy. So, uh, I
It's
was
crazy what
arrested.
they consider paraphernalia. I once got arrested for intent to distribute because they found 20, 30 Roxy 30s on me, and they found a pill crusher in my car, and they try hitting me with paraphernalia
I'm
because
like, yo, that's just breakfast, homie. That's not no distribution. I ain't selling a one of those.
that's what I said. I said to them, I said, number one, you pulled me over in the school zone. What did you expect? Number two, that's 20 of them, and they're all for me because I got a problem and I'm addicted to them. And I straight up said that to the cops. Like, listen, I am no drug dealer. I'm just a drug addict, and I need all 20 of them because I don't live in town.
So at this point, I'm not in any way selling Oxycontin. I occasionally have seen them. I know about them now. They're becoming more popular. My guy's got them for cheap. He's mentioned it a few times. I haven't messed with it. I'm killing it in pot for what I think I'm killing it in pot. And I'm also the manager of a burger restaurant. I made $8.75 an hour. And I had my Yukon parked behind the restaurant. And like I said, at 20 something, you don't even realize, at 20 something, if you have a Yukon, you figure everybody's got a Yukon or whatever it is that you're driving and that you've managed to pay for that other people, you don't realize that it stands out like, oh, you work at a burger restaurant and, oh, your cousin's putting a new stereo system and TVs in your truck behind your job. I
Yeah.
have a job. I have a job. That was always my thing. I have a job. I have a job. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I was an entrepreneur and a businessman at heart. Eventually, that just was too small of a place, and they came and talked to me one night, and mostly it was just like they threatened to arrest me, and then I was at work, and my boss came. Other people showed up. This other cop showed up, and they gave me a ticket. They gave me a ticket for the possession of weed and stuff, and I had to go in 30 days. I ended up getting unhandcuffed. My boss talks to this guy, and they took my money, a bunch of weed, uh, a little toolbox looking thing, and I seen the cop just like roll my money up in a roll and stick it in his pocket, bro. And so I already knew what was going on, kind of. Like, I was like, there's no way. I was like, I just got robbed, I think. I said, we got robbed. So I, at some point, this cop made it his personal mission. His name was Mike Truvino. He was a known dirty cop. There's a lot more to the story. A lot could probably be found on Google, if I'm not mistaken. So he approaches me and tells me that he can make all this go away if I do something for him. And I don't. And I go down to court. I show up in court 30 days later for the ticket they gave me for the whole thing. And the court says that they don't have no record of this, but if I can give them the original ticket, they'll put it in the system and we'll start from there. But they have no record. They have no money, no evidence, no ticket been issued that they've received. And so I'm standing like an idiot with a ticket in my pocket, and I leave. I said, no, I don't have it. I was like, if you don't got it, I don't got it. I'm out of here. So I leave. That cop becomes I don't even know, dude. Like a personal vendetta, dude. Like, dude must have pulled me over 50, 75 times. Eventually they did pull me over and caught me with something, and I ended up on misdemeanor uh, no show probation. Basically, behave yourself for a year, and this case will drop. And then they just kept pulling me over, and it just kept escalating. And at the time, I was now no, after the arrest at the burger joint, I no longer work at the burger joint. And the next job that I was hired as, I was a cook at an old folks home. I was called a dietary supervisor. And that literally just put me in touch with a whole bunch of shiesty nurses who were the new connects. And those became the new connects. And now I've been basically, I feel like they're on to me, and they've now started harassing me, and I can't have these large quantities of pot in my car no more, or with me. I don't have other people to drive it or nothing. Like, so I have to get and do all these things myself. And so I'm like, yo, pot's just too
Yeah.
big. Like, by 5, 8 pounds, you can smell the fuck out of it, as well as it's a big ass duffel bag. It's a big ass hockey bag. Like, it's not a little amount. And I was like, I could probably do better with these pills, and you can just have them all in one pocket. You could just have a little bottle full, and you could still make money. And so then I started to transition into like selling painkillers, and then I was like, anything pills. Like, I had heart medicine and Viagra's and Roxy's and Oxys and Dilaudids and Dilaudid 2s and 8s. And at the time, you could still get fentanyl in suckers, patches, and lozenges, quick dissolve lozenges. And dude, I really, at that point, I feel like I should have had a job as like a pharmaceutical representative or worked in the medical field at some sort, because I could sit and discuss like half-lives and this one over this one, and this one's got Aleve in it, this one's got acetaminophen in it, and I knew all these things and all the pronunciations, and I felt pretty damn smart about it. And I was like, learned about Xanax and all the benzodiazepine stuff. And at some point, through the circle of drug crimes being committed, and I know and meet so many people in this area. I'm well known. I've gone to jail now a few times. In jail, a lot of people knew me. Wherever I got put, somebody knew me. And so that just makes more people know you, and take people's numbers, and it was growing. And then it was and I had a standing order for everyone. Like, I will give anybody some money, but you got to tell me who's got pills for sale. And I would go meet people, give them $100 or whatever, and meet some old lady and buy her scripts. And I had lots and lots. Not only that, because of the cook job, I ended up meeting this lady named Mama Rowe, who was from like the West Side, which is a bad part of Fresno, and she was driving way up there for work. And I didn't know her first, but I met her daughter. Her daughter was a CNA, and her daughter says, "My mom's the connect." And I was like, "Yeah, everybody's the connect here." You know what I'm saying? Like, every one of these nurses is the connect. That's why I bring them bacon and eggs in the morning. Like, and I had to cook, and that's how I greased all these ladies up. Like, I was a young, smart kid, and I was in charge of the kitchen. So I ordered donuts and fancy little Danish stuffs, and take care of the nurse's break room and coffee, and hook it up. Um, I'm married to a nurse I met there 20 years ago now. She was actually a dose nurse in prison. And yeah, like I said, I have a crazy stories, man. When I really get going, like, I've pulled off some crazy stuff over the years. And these girl says her mom's the connect, and I eventually meet her mom. Her mom's like the coolest old lady. She drives like a Lincoln Navigator with dubs on it. I mean, like big old rims, and she had Beats in her car, and she'd play like Marvin Gaye and stuff. And she would pull up and serve whatever number I could bring, and then she would front me additional. So and I would go there with like $12,000, and she would show up with a freezer bag full of 80s. And then I was like, oh my God, this lady's like, she found a crooked doctor in Fresno who happened to be my weed doctor. That was the doctor who gave me a medical marijuana card, was her pain management specialist. And if you ever Google Fresno pain management specialist, federal charges, all that, his name will come to me here in a second. It was Dr. Timothy Brubaker. And he was a pill mill, one of the major ones here in the area. Well, that lady knew how to run that system. She was a registered nurse or an LVN or whatever she was. She was up there at the old folks home. So she took every member in her family, every person she could talk into it, and she'd be like, I'll give you $100 or I'll give you $50. I'm going to take you to the doctor. You say you hurt, this guy takes care of it. And she had people like that. And that's how she got what she got. And that went on for like a good 2 years with that lady. And that stuff, I lived off of that the
Now,
whole
were you
time.
doing them too, or just selling
Oh
them?
yeah. At that, by the time I meet that lady, I'm on a new mission of, these are my favorite things on earth, and I have to share the joy with the world.
Yep.
And it went quite good for a decent minute, but as everyone knows, like, there's only so long you can hold up a run like that. Like, you can only take a beating for so long, and then, like, you're always one robbery, bad drug buy, undercover, something from bankruptcy, or we're talking back then, they don't dose you or nothing. So if you go to jail, you learn the hard way. You learn the hard way. And so the very first time I learned the hard way, bro, I got out of jail and straight got picked up, and I was on at home on the computer, and I was on like WebMD and shit, like Googling. I was like, I got cancer, I'm dying, I'm coughing blood up, I'm dying, dude. Like, I was like, I got cancer. WebMD says I got cancer. I got stomach cancer. Like, I was full on prepared to die from some crazy foreign disease. And I just kept typing and this is like a long ass time I did it, dude, an hour or something. I messed on this computer and I kept typing symptoms. But on the list of things it would bring up at the bottom was like heroin addiction, like over and over again. I kept seeing that it brought up here. And then finally I'm like, yo, I'm no fucking worthless junkie, okay? I don't do no fucking heroin. And then I started reading it and I was like, huh. And then I mean, we're talking about, that's how I learned, like, this stuff does that to you. Like, 2.5 years into a good run,
Yeah.
going into jail, becoming the most sick I've ever been in my life, and then Googling it until I figured out why.
You were hurting so bad.
Yeah. And then, like I said, totally blamed it on everything else. And I was just like, no, there's no way. There's no way. I'm not a heroin addict. I've never done such shit. Like, and then, so that was that. And at that point, it was like,
What's that? Your volume went low. Your volume? There you go.
good.
Yep.
Okay.
So you realize what withdrawals were. How old were you?
I gotta be 24, 25, somewhere right around there.
That's around how old I was when I realized I was going through withdrawals too. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I had the flu. I was throwing up. I was, sweating. I didn't have a fever though. I didn't know what was happening. And then I went home from work because I was so sick. And then I didn't take any pills for like another couple of months. And I started taking them again more regularly, like every day. And I started withdrawing. And I was like, holy shit, back in July, that's what that was. I wasn't sick. It was dope sick.
It was very similar. So like I said, it took.
Wait, your volume went down again, Ryan.
Sorry, I keep putting my thumb over the hole. But my problem was, like, by the time I figured out that that's what was causing the problem, I already had such a crazy habit. There was not, like, cold turkey was no longer an option, but I knew of nothing. I didn't know anything about methadone or Suboxone or AA, NA, Salvation Army, all these other places. Like, I knew nothing. And so I'm just like, this stuff made me sick. So I'm never going to get sick again. So I'm going to make sure that I'm the biggest guy around so that I always have plenty. And that was the plan, that's the plan in the head, is to just like become so ingrained in the sale of it that I never run out again, that I never have to go through that again. And we'll deal with the consequences in a future date. At a future time and location, we'll address that.
That's how I felt about my stash. If I had 4 left, first I would be like, okay, I got 4 left. I'm going to do 2 now, and I'm going to save 2 for tomorrow. And then I would do 2, and then I'd be like, okay, I got 2 left. I'm going to do 1 now and save 1 for tomorrow, so I'm not waking up in withdrawals. And then I have 1 left, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. That's JD tomorrow's problem. I'll figure it out tomorrow.
That's
I'm going to do this
that's
last one
tomorrow
now.
morning's problem, man. That's exactly, dude. I'll tell you the worst one, the worst is, and this is like right around the same time. So like I've probably been released from jail, and I figured out that this is causing the problem, and I have a older mentor, Uncle Nick, who really looked out for me and like tried to help guide me when I was a younger dude. And like he owned a construction company, and he did asphalt construction, asphalt and seal coating. And he says, "Hey, I'm going up to Yosemite there's this one huge hotel up in Yosemite, and we're going to redo the whole parking lot. Be up there for a week, I'll pay you real good." And I said, "Yeah, I'll go up and do it with you." And so the night before we leave, I know what's going on. So I go, and it's like, all right, well, I do this many a day. So that's 7 days or 5 days at this many equals this number. So we'll be good for the whole week. Bro, they were mostly gone that night and definitely gone by the time I arrived on the 9-10 in the morning the next day, Monday morning. So Tuesday, Wednesday become the most sick you've ever seen a human being. I'm still trying to work because I'm like, yo, I can't have my uncle fail, think I'm failing like that. And so I'm like trying to work, can't, keep getting like bloody noses. Because, your nose is all dried out and we're way up high altitude, and your nose is suffering because you're used to, the constant powder.
Were you a snorter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I have a best friend who's no longer with us. And not even from that. In fact, he got clean long before I did, got a family, got a job, went to welding school. And he got a infection in his foot, and he lived in some bum town in Oklahoma, and their hospital didn't have the equipment to work on him. And he was like a real big dude. He was like 6'5", 400 pounds. And they said they couldn't get him in this MRI, and they couldn't get him in this. And then he got an infection real bad and went in a coma and passed away. But I straight got in a fist fight with him one time over him smoking them. And I was like, "You're fucking wasting it into the sky." Like, I cannot abide that. I cannot sit here and watch.
Wait, you went over it again.
I said I got a scar on my chest because he stabbed me. Yeah, he fucking cut me. I smacked that shit out of his hand. I was like, "Don't! You could do that with your little girlfriend or whatever." I was like, "We're not doing none of that." And then, I never got into IV for OxyContin or any of that. I snorted the whole way through, and then finally after a good solid run, like a 3-year run, finally they have put together. Well, now OxyContin's become like a real problem in the community, and so there's a Fresno Clovis joint OxyContin task force with the sheriff's deputies, and um, I became a known name amongst a few other people, including the chief of police's son, who I knew, or his nephew. I'm sorry, his name was Damon Dyer. These things are all Googleable, by the way. These are no stories, but Damon Dyer was the chief of police's nephew, and he was a cocaine and OxyContin steroid trafficker. And he got in trouble, and this is all towards the end. He got in trouble, and then some firefighter dude who we all knew that had gone to high school with a bunch of us, he turned confidential informant, and that caused my arrest, another kid named Lonnie Taylor, and another kid named Kevin or Kenneth Collins. I can't remember. They were twins. But one of them the three of us got, um, whatever they call it, give three, go free. And then the
Where
kid confidentially informed on us.
is that when you do like 3 buys and they let you go?
Yeah, here that's what and so the kid who did it to me was actually my roommate. He lived in my house and everything, bro. Like, he was a firefighter. He got caught at work, and they were like, "Just tell us where it come from, and we'll." And so they didn't fire him; they just made him go to rehab. And literally, he checked himself out of rehab and got fired. So did that to me and another. Lonnie was a close personal friend of both of ours, and he did that to us for 3 weeks later to walk out of the rehab and lose the job anyway. And probably the only person in life that I say I truly hated and never forgave, and he finally died a year ago. Uh, they say he choked in his sleep, but we all know what that means on Facebook. So I finally was like, all right, it's finally over. Like, I had a lot of potential, and I felt like what he did, like, I really looked out for that dude. He was a little younger than me. I really took care of that dude, just like I did with any friend who needed it. You need a place, you got it. You need food, you got it. And then to have to find out that that's the person who did the. And one of my connects told me I had a connect who was a Samoan lady who actually, when everything went bad, like, she actually took care of me, like took me in, let me stay there and stuff, and she told me the whole time it was him. She's like, I guarantee it was him. She told me for months it was him. I was like, lady, stop. Like, it's not. That's my friend. That's my roommate. I known him since we were kids. We grew up together. We went to school together. Like, not not him. And it was like he would go with me sometimes. And then one time she's like, don't ever bring him here again. Don't bring him like to this neighborhood ever again. Don't have him sit in the car while you come in here. Like, don't bring him ever again. And I was like, what's the deal? And she's like, you don't get it. She goes, that kid did you. He's the guy. The whole time I don't know who it is. It's all in the process. I'm fighting a court case. I'm in and out basically. So the judge and them kept remanding me to custody, and then Fresno County Jail would say I'm nonviolent. I had never committed a violent crime, and I had no record of any sort. I never had nothing. And so I would get to jail, and they would overcrowd release me in like 24 hours. And then a condition of that release would be I would have to then check in with my probation officer the next day morning. Then I would go back there. And me and that dude had already had like mad words a whole bunch of times because he was like, you will get a job. And I was like, not working at McDonald's or whatever he was trying to get me to go do, work at some slave shop somewhere. So we'd already had words. I'd already made him arrest me like 2 times. And so every time I got released, I would go turn myself in at probation. They would rearrest me. Then I would go back into jail, booking, processing everything up to the bed, The next day I go to court, and the judge says, whatever he says, don't release him. And they send me back to the jail, and the jail's like, released. And they'd release me. Bro, this went on for so long. It was the biggest government clusterfuck I've ever experienced in my. It's like living in a DMV that's also the jail, and nobody knows what anything is going on. And so I did my little. Let's see. I think I was in 9 months. So I ended up getting 9 months. Then I went into county, and then instead of the 9 months, because I was nonviolent stuff, pretty soon after 3 months or something, I got released to Salvation Army. The
Rehab.
the program, Sally's, the worst program on earth. And
It's intense.
bro, it's intense because I was just not in the mental place for it. Like, I am barely starting to like just be okay enough to like walk around and not be planning murders of everyone around me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I totally just did a full DT in county jail with strangers in a bunk, in and out. And then they were doing that in and out thing to me. That shit made me homeless. Like, cause you in and out 18 times, bro. Like a whole month of in and out nonsense games. And you just start, you're running out of people who are going to pick you up or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just start running out of options at that point. You're not on the street long enough to make money. So you're just constantly in and out. Your phone's in and out, off, it was getting down there. And then they finally kept me and then released me to Sally's. Then I was supposed to stay at Sally's, and I made it in Sally's for 90 days. I made it 90 days, so I made it past all the hard stuff. The first 30, and 3 weeks into my stay there, they released my partner in crime / good friend, co-defendant Lonnie Taylor to the same program. He was also in county jail. He gets released to the same program. I literally come in, and the bunk next to mine, they're putting him in it. And I was like, oh, cool. This isn't gonna end well. So, and I made it longer than he did. But so immediately he's like, so are you holding or what? And I was like, no, I've been good for, at that point, a couple months, 4 months or something. Because I was locked up and then went to Sally's. Been Sally's 3 weeks. So he's like, I'm on it. I'm going to call Michelle. So he calls his girl, Michelle, and she, brings us anything we need, cigarettes, all the stuff. You've been in Sally's?
No, I've been to one rehab. It was out in Los Angeles in Culver City.
So at Sally's, they work you like a slave. And then like once a week, they give you like $5 for cigarettes.
Yeah, that's what I mean by it's intense. I've heard, about their program compared. I was in a nice little cushy place on the west side of LA, and I loved it. I had a great experience in rehab.
Oh my God, no. So I would say I would choose state prison over rehab. The Sally's was worse than being in jail or prison, period. 100%. You were treated like an animal, a slave, and there's nothing you can do because you're court ordered there.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever the fuck they want to you, and they did. And so then immediately on my friend getting there, it just starts to devolve. It's hard enough to keep yourself going good, but when you got another person who's just like you, and just then we were both just hustlers. We were always making money. We were both, smart dudes. And so just immediately he started stealing everything of value he could get his hands on out in the warehouse. And then within a few days, they figured out that I used to manage restaurants. So I got made in charge of the kitchen. And then, we stole tons of Coach purses and sandals and like bales of shit. And he had a dude with a truck, and his girl, Michelle, was coming and picking up shit. And then we started flipping drivers and paying drivers. We ended up stealing like a truck full of TVs that was donated from Best Buy or something. It was some TVs and a whole bunch of video game machines, and we stole all that shit. Fishing gear, gun. I mean, I don't even know at this point. There was a ton of stuff back then. And he gets caught one morning. And so then they catch him. Then they search the whole place. Then they lock everybody down. And then everyone's locked in their rooms. And you're just waiting. And they come through and they drug test everybody. And so he was the only one they caught. And the only one that they kicked out that day, because at that point, so many employees were involved. We had turned so many employees that, I mean, I thought I was pretty much untouchable. I was like, there's no way I get caught, because literally everybody here. So, and then I make it like another 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after him, whatever it was. I made it to like 90 days and he was like right under it, like 80 days. And they had just did them one morning. They just pretty much hemmed me up and were like, we need you to take a drug test. And I hadn't taken one in a while. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to pee and I'm not going to do it. So then they said, you got to go. So I left there. And then when I left, they found like just some random stuff, but it was enough for them to ask some more questions. And by the time they were done, they fired almost everybody there. Even and I had the information to get the director, the boss himself fired. He didn't do nothing with us, but we were out walking in the hood, because you get to go out on day passes and shit, and you got to go out with buddies. So I went out with my buddy, and we would have this girl Michelle pick us up and drive us around all this stuff. And right down the street was where all the girls stay that are in rehab. The girls aren't kept where the boys are kept. They're kept like miles away in a place called Rosecrest. And we were lurking just in the car. It was down, it was like a straight drive. And so we had driven and we knew where it was. And we weren't even there to see girls or nothing. We had a car and a girl, and we were just over there lurking. Or maybe one of the kids that was with us was trying to see a girl. Or I can't fully remember. But we ended up seeing the director over at the girls' rehab space late at night when he wasn't supposed to be there. It was right at the edge when we weren't supposed to be out on
leave.
Yeah, we were supposed to, like, we almost were late that night because we were like, oh my God, that's the guy, Ko. His name was Ko Lovelace. Again, Googleable. He eventually made the news because he was fucking those girls, and he got caught finally a couple years later, and he got fired for it. But all those people in there got fired, a bunch of drivers and a manager. And then the one dude, there was 2 managers, and one of them I got, and the other one I didn't. And the other one was like the most straight edge. He was a bad dude, and he got sober. And bro, this dude was about recovery. He was a recovery Nazi, bro. And when it comes to do drug tests, one of those 2 dudes do it. And then when it got to me, he did it. And I was like, it's over, bro. Can't pull no fake stuff or nothing, because the other guy just was too dumb and he didn't look, or he didn't pay no attention. And this dude was on a mission. He knew that I was close with that other dude, like that, and they knew he'd done a bunch of this stuff. That he had involved these drivers, and they're gonna fire some people, and so they just didn't believe that I didn't know anything. And so when he did my drug test, there was nothing I could do, and so I was just like, can't be. And then we got kicked out. And then some kid who used to hang out with me a lot, he was like some new kid, and he was a white kid from the nice side of town, so he definitely didn't fit in there. His name was Max, and I looked out for him in rehab because he was such a square. And then I'm out, and a few years later, I'm at my brother's wedding. He's at my brother's wedding. He married my brother's wife's sister.
Oh, okay.
And so the years later, I found out, like, I'm related to this dude now. He's married into He's married to my brothers, into my brother's side of the family. But then I get out of there. They kick me out. So then I go back to the probation and I tell them, hey, I couldn't pee and they kicked me out. And so the dude's like, I don't believe you. He's like, I'm going to drug test you. I'm calling this lady. And then he calls this lady and this lady says, we have no comment and nothing that happens with our beneficiaries can be discussed. All I can say is that he was unable to give a test within the 30-minute window, and he is now not welcome at any Salvation Army in California. That they banned me from the state plan program. And so then he was real suspicious because of that, but they didn't tell him nothing. So then they put me on a court date and put me back before the judge. And then that dude actually ended up saying to the judge, he's like, hey, he did 90 days already. They said he just couldn't pee and they didn't give me a reason. And so the judge counted all that time. He didn't make me restart, which I'd already restarted once. And then this time he didn't. And then he sent me to another program called Recycling Lives, which was privately owned and not accredited. So it was even worse. It was a scam operation of the highest order. But the owner was like buddies with my judge. The lady was just in the courtroom. And the judge was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. He goes, the Salvation Army was the last place that I could send you to fulfill the requirements for probation, blah, blah, blah. And this lady's like, Jonathan. And he's like, Lori, how you doing? And they start talking and having a full-on conversation while I'm in court. I'm talking to a judge, and some random white lady behind me starts talking. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And my judge is like, I'd like a moment to speak with this blah, blah, blah. And she goes straight in the back with the judge. And they talk for a few minutes. And then he comes out and he says, today's your lucky day that they're not accredited, but I trust them. So this is where you're going. And he released me to that lady right then and there. She takes me to their rehab. It's a scam operation. Everybody's on drugs. I graduate 30 days in. I apply for interstate compact parole transfer, and I transfer that to Colorado, where I have family that lives there, just because I had to be out of the area and I had nowhere to go. And if I stayed there, I would just continue working for free at this program. And so finally, now we're 18 months since I've been arrested. And then I ended up staying there 3 additional months while I waited for that transfer to go through all the paperwork. And then I had to prove that I had a skill that I could possibly be hired at in Colorado. Then I had to call some people in Colorado. I was just like, get somebody. I don't give a shit who. Fake a name. Just say, I have a construction job if I go to Colorado. And that's all it took. Once they got a letter saying somebody would give me a job, then my shit was approved and I took a bus out there. And then in Colorado, I remained sober for let's see, let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I had 5 years there straight.
Were you going to meetings?
No meetings. New place, new friends, got a job, was going real good. Started gambling. So going to the casino. Then there was a bar that had a free poker game on Friday nights. If you won, you got a money in the entry to a different real poker game at the casino or something to that effect. And I went to that one time and I was driving home. Colorado's full of hippies. And I seen this kid walking in the snow. And so I pull over. I say, hey, man, I'll give you a ride. I give him a ride to his house. And he's like, hey, man, I don't have anything to give you. I don't have any money. He's like, but I got something to give you. And he gave me a little packet. He's like, that's for you, man. That's all I got. Have a good night. I knew his name was Tyler, and we exchanged phone numbers. A nice white kid, and I made good friends with him. But he gave me a gram of wax of weed concentrate and 5 purple morphines in a little thing. And I was just like, nah, nah, nah. But it was not. You know how that one goes. So then, so now, and I'm like fully embracing, like, I'm a construction worker now. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not a drug trafficker or weed trafficker. I never got caught with nothing big. I beat this down. And eventually, the one case that cop was involved with, I straight told him, I was like, yo, this cop robbed me. And if we're going to go to court, I want to go to trial because I had $2,300. And if you don't have it and I don't have it, then I don't, I was mad, dude. It never been, you could have been a drug dealer and robbed me and I'd have been all right. But for a cop to rob me was something different. And then to like try to like, bro, he like tried to lean on me. And like I said, there was years of him harassing me because I just was like, no, bro. Like, he was like, he didn't want me to do undercover buys, bro. This cop was crooked as fuck. His name was Mike Trevino. You can look
What was
him up
that?
a couple years ago. They call it suspicious circumstances, but he was a meth head. He robbed everybody he pulled over. And I used to do handyman work on the side. And this old white lady hires me, and I end up working for this lady for like 3 years. Her name's Barbara Dada. And she tells me, after like 3 years of working for her, she's like, I'm telling her about some legal problems that I'm having in general because I found out she's the chief deputy district attorney for Fresno. And she owned a bunch of horses that looked like those Bud Light
Clydesdales.
Clydesdales. They're called Percherons. So she owned a company called Granite Pass Percherons. And I used to go over there and shovel horse shit for her and take her truck and go get hay bales and feed her dogs and take care of her house when they're out of town. So eventually I tell this lady that this cop don't like me and he's pulling me over all the time. His name is Mike Trevino. And she goes on to tell me that he's a crooked cop. They all know he's crooked. And that in the late 90s, he emailed naked pictures of a sheriff's deputy who was his girlfriend on the Fresno sheriff's computer, and that was the final straw. He was already some suspect he was on the gang and drug task force, and they already thought he was stealing and doing shifty stuff. And so then that one was the final blow to his career. They took him off all the cool stuff and they made him a regular sheriff, and they stuck him way up in the corner of this little terrible shitty mountain town called Prather. And that's where I grew up. And so this dude's like crooked and harassing me for years. And finally, a few years ago, he passes away, and they say it's suspicious and all that. But really, he probably had an overdose or something because he was a notorious, just a problem deputy, dude. Like, the district attorney knew this dude was a problem deputy, but they're just like, he's in a union. He's in, pretty much. And like, a lot of people don't have the luxury of these connections to be able to say to a district attorney, like, hey, this cop's giving me a problem. And then her to be like, oh, yeah, he's a dirty cop. We've known for years. Couldn't do nothing about it. So we stuck him up here to retire him until retirement. And that dude gave me so much problems. That's when I started like spending a lot of time down in Fresno instead of the mountain community, and it became easier to do deals and get high and all that bullshit. In the valley, and ended up moving away. Things are way better in Colorado. I'm making good money as a carpenter, learning a trade. Some old guy, some guy in jail. It was some Mexican guy in jail first. His name was Robert Aliman. And he said, do you want to keep doing this? And I was like, what? And he's like, going to jail and like doing drugs and going to jail. And he was in there for like his fifth DUI. And he's like lecturing me. He's like, I have a job, bro. He's like, I'm a carpenter. I have a company. When I get out of here, I go back to work. And he goes, so he's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to do any skilled things. Like, I could be a janitor, or I could be a line cook or something. I was like, that's about the extent of my working experience. And he says, this stuff. And he actually, when we got out, he came by the rehab and brought me a book called Carpentry 123s by Better Home Building. And I still have it, but dude helped me learn how to be a carpenter. And so then I went to Colorado and I was like trying to get with somebody, and another dude named Jerry took me under his wing and started teaching me trim carpentry and doors and cabinets. So I'm doing real good. I start gambling, and eventually I'm at a poker game, and during the poker game, there's like a new guy there, and he's got like a crazy thick Boston accent. He's real loud and flashy. And somebody apparently backs into this dude's car, and he's like screaming, I give $500 to whoever tells me where this guy is that hit my car. Da da da. And I'm like, dude, this dude's crazy. I don't even know who this guy is. I'm gonna avoid the fuck out of this dude. I'm trying to behave myself and this and that. And I start working for this contractor called Mike Gaddis. And I work with another guy who's from Massachusetts named Justin DeLong. And that dude is his buddy. And he gets him a job. And so now I meet this guy. His name's Mark Foley. And we start talking. And he's like, what do you do? And I was like, I'm a carpenter. And he's like, what do you do before? And I was like, well, I used to be the weed man, or I used to be the man. And he goes, you think you're the weed man? He goes, I'm the fucking weed man. And he starts telling me that they took $1 million off him in Boston, and just crazy stories that you take immediately as junkie ramblings. Like, oh, they took $1 million off you, Mark? Okay. And here you are, Justin DeLong's carpentry helper. And he goes, what did you do? And I told him, what I did and who I did it with and how I did it and the different stuff. We became extremely good friends. Over a period of a few months, he invites me to his home. Dude takes me up, and we're talking like Evergreen, Colorado. His house was probably 800 grand or $1 million or something. His wife's like a computer tech girl or whatever she's doing. But dude's started out in Boston, and he would go into Canada and buy weed in bulk in Canada and tow it back to America on snowmobiles over the frozen lakes, and has pictures and shit. Like so all these. So then I find out this dude's not a liar. He doesn't lie to anybody. He's the most stand-up dude I've ever met. I go to his house. Obvious drug kingpin. Then tells me about this. The first, he's like, yeah, I got into business. I was smuggling from Canada. I took it over in snowmobiles. Look at these pictures I got of me and the boys on the snowmobiles with sleds piled with weed. And he's like, so then as I become his friend and I start being over at his home. In fact, I became like his bodyguard, personal assistant dude. And I was with him daily till he passed. And he had like a lawyer in Massachusetts fighting this stuff for him, and so he got an offer from Massachusetts. They're like, if you come back and do the time for whatever they were trying to charge him with, the grow house or something, we'll give you 100 grand back. And he was like, fuck off. I got 100 grand. I'm not coming back and going to jail for 100 grand. And so dude has a functioning interstate pot trafficking network. And I only speak of this now because he's dead and the third person involved, the driver, Curtis, is in the feds. This goes on really well for a year, and now he's paying me basically $1,000-1,500 a week cash to sit around with him and drive him around. Then he pays me $200 or $300 a pound for every pound of weed that I can find anywhere. So I just anywhere with some other dude's money, and if I can buy them, I get the juice on each one. And he's putting together 200 pounds a week, and they go back to Indiana, Boston, West Virginia, South Carolina, all this crazy stuff. And he has this white boy out of prison named Curtis, and he's older. He's in his 50s. and dude's the main driver. He's got a red Dodge truck, and it's made out like a you know those trucks that escort big rigs on the freeways that say wide load. His truck's like that, and it says Curtis Howard Trucking Escort Transportation Logistics Services on it. And so that's we would pack the bed of the truck with duffel bags and then close the tonneau cover and lock it. And dude would just get on the freeway and get in front of some random big rig and drive through all those states and make his drops. And then he would come back to Colorado, take about 2 weeks usually. And then we would be gearing for the next one. And I would be out doing whatever I'm doing. And dude just was like the best human being I've ever met in my entire life. I had him at my family Thanksgiving and Christmas, him and his wife. They've been at my mother's house. He came to my mother's house and had dinner and just like gave her an envelope full of money. And then he needed a house cleaning lady. He's like, he's caught on that I know construction and drug dealing. And so he's like, yo, I want to invest in your construction business. I want to make you a real construction business so that I can launder all the pot money as construction money for real.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. And so he hires my mom as a house cleaner, and she's being paid like $25 an hour. And she's like, I've never been paid $25 an hour my whole life. Like, Mark's overpaying me. Tell him I only want 15 or whatever it was, you know? And he was just that good of a human, bro. Like, everywhere he went, he paid the bar tab. He paid the restaurant tab. He found some kids that playing guitar and their van had broken over in Denver, bro. He just took them and he bought them a van. He bought a band called the Rumpke Mountain Boys. They're from like Ohio or something, and they're like this hillbilly country Colorado hippie music. And
Mm-hmm.
their van blew up in Denver. He meets them. He likes them. He then buys him a van. Then he has them give a private show at his house and invites the town. Then he pays for them to headline at Cactus Jack's in Evergreen, Colorado, and like made him a popular band in Colorado just because he found them by the side of the road and liked them. And he did those kind of things for people all the time. He had a Ford Raptor truck, and he put a winch on it. And I was like, bro, why do you put a winch on it? I was like, you don't even know. I said, you're not like that. You're not outdoorsy. He's
Yeah.
like, because I see people all the time slid off the road in the snow, and if I can pull them off, I ain't got nothing to do. I pull them out of the road. And so dude was like, in all winter, would be pulling people out of the ditch with his truck. And like I said, he spread money around like it was a movie. Like, and he was not greedy. Like, he's like, I have so much money. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, he would go, he liked to follow fish. Him and his wife were fish heads, and they would follow fish and like String Cheese Incident and some other hippie jam bands they really liked. And they'd go to like Jamaica and Mexico and stuff. And he would have me watch his house. And so I knew his house. I knew all the stuff. I knew the guns, the codes. And dude would give me $5,000. He would sometimes he'd just be like, "You've done a real good job lately," and just hand me 10 grand, and be like, "That's a gift. That's not a loan," or shit like that. And then was like talking, he was gonna, make my construction company big. That he was gonna make this a real thing for both of us, and we spent the whole time there as good friends. I worked for him a lot. I had a few real jobs, mostly right before I met him and after. But when he was alive, once he decided that I was his friend, he never wanted me doing anything else. If I couldn't find nothing to do, then he would be like, "Work on my house, I'll pay you." He's like, "But you don't need to work like that. You don't need to do this. I want you." He's like, "I pay you to sit here with me. I pay you to drive me. I pay you to do this. Like, enjoy it." And that went on for a while, and then it went really good for like 2 or 3 years, dude. Like, tons of money. The whole, everybody around him's doing well. Like I said, like if he had it, everybody had it. Barbecues and loaning everybody money, buying people cars, getting kids snowboards and stuff like that. Just you'd almost, if he wasn't a drug trafficker, you'd be like he was a pillar of the community. Like people, the whole place grieved when he died, and we definitely partied. So dude was a poly substance. Like he got fucked up on anything. He would always joke like if some girl thought her drink was date raped, let him know because he would drink it. He said that if I had date rape drug, I'd date rape myself. I want to know what that feels like. Like always make jokes like that. But he was definitely a poly substance dude, and he was in recovery. He had a wife, and at the end, he had a kid on the way. Then at the end there, for him, I mean, the money's stupid. Like, dude's, I don't know, but I know close enough, I think. But I would have to say he was profiting around 100,000 plus a month. That was going into his safe, and he was paying driver like 20 grand to run. Everybody around him was being paid well, and he was spreading the love. And he started partying again. And then one day he hits me up, and he knows the whole story. He's told me his whole story. He had the same thing. Some weed smokers, started doing pills, got strung out, got clean, moved to Colorado to get better, been better. And then he goes, hey, he's like, you want to get high? And I was like, no. And he's like, what would be the one thing you would do if you was going to get high? And I was like, Dilaudid. He's like, I got Dilaudid. And I was like, damn it, dude. Like, no, dude. Like, you don't want to do this. And we argued about, I remember, dude, because like this wealthy ass dude and me are sitting in my beater Tacoma. I'm in my Tacoma, and we're in, the windows are rolled up, and we're in there and we're arguing because he doesn't want his wife to hear about it. And I'm like, nah. And he's like, you don't got to worry about it. He's like, I won't give you any more or nothing. He's like, we're just going to do these. I only got a couple of them. We'll just do them. We'll have a good time, and we won't fuck around no more. And I was like, all right. And we definitely had this relationship where he was like definitely wild, and I kind of tried to calm him in. Like he was like he would fight people kind of shit. And so I was always trying to like keep him happy and be the homie, and it was my best friend. I love this dude, and he says this, and I said, all right, I don't deny my thing in it. And so we do those, and so that immediately becomes a problem for both of us. And so the next few months, this problem goes. It's around Christmas time. I've had enough, and I say, I'm done. I'm not going anymore. So to buy stuff, and so the ladders are gone. Pills are unavailable. This is 2015. Yeah, 14 or 15. So the only thing he could get was black. And then to do that, you had to buy it from Hondurans in the bad part of Denver. And so it immediately became my problem. He was like, oh, I'll just pay you. I'll just give you $1,000 every time you go down there and buy whatever I tell you to buy, get yourself something, and keep the change. And then that became like more frequently, like a lot. Like he went to doing a lot fast. Then by Christmas, I've had enough. It's been a solid couple month run. And dude doesn't really want to quit, but I say, I'm not going down there no more. I'm not, you don't speak Spanish and you don't like dealing with the Hondurans. And so I'm not going. He says, you're right. I got a kid on the way. I got to stop. I'm going to stop. And I said, all right, cool. So, and at that point, I know like that we shouldn't hang out. Like we can't, like I can't go over to his house and just hang out because he's so my best friend, and he's like got the personality of a movie star. Like you can't tell this guy no. Like he could talk you into anything, And then when you're his friend and you already got a problem, like I knew by going over there, I wouldn't last, because he'd be like, bro, I'll pay for it. You just try it. You just go get it. I'll pay for it. And you don't even have to worry about it, or whatever it would be. I already knew. So the next couple weeks, I really don't hang out with dude. I'm kind of avoiding him and telling him I'm sick and not feeling good, and I got a job going on, and we're not hanging out. And I keep calling. We're talking to each other on the phone, and he made some. Oh, that now I'm okay. So he made some comment, was like, maybe we just go get a little one, huh? We'll go down and by the river, and they sell them little ones, but they're called black and whites, and they're 50-50 dope and coke, already already in foil, 50-50s. He's like, oh, let's go get one of those. Just do one. I was like, nah, dude. We already made it like 30 days. Like, I have Suboxone, and he didn't. I don't know what he was doing, methadone or something, I think. And he's bugged me like once or twice. I say no, and then he calls me back and he's like, hey man, I need like $2,000. And I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, the truck got pulled over in Indiana. And I was like, the truck? And he's like, yeah. He's like, they got Curtis. They got 170 pounds. He had a gun. He had a 410 Judge pistol, 410 shotgun pistol. They pulled him over in Indiana. He's arrested. The girl in the truck that was with him that wasn't supposed to be there, she's arrested. And all my money is with Curtis and tied up in that load. And I owed him some money, so I said, yeah, bro, I put it out in the mailbox. Come get it. Call me when you're downstairs or whatever. And so he literally I was at my mom's house at that time. And so he actually came by my mom's house, and I walked down and met him. I gave him the 2 racks. We talked for a few minutes, and he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, this is it. He's like, they've been on to him for a minute. He was already saying shit like he felt like things were like under surveillance. And then he got pulled over, and he had a not valid Massachusetts license, and they let him go and didn't tow his truck. And so he was already feeling like they're in the process of building a case, doing this stuff. So he's highly stressed out, talking crazy. And then he leaves, and I never hear from him again. And the next day around 6 o'clock, a mutual friend of ours, which is the other dude from Massachusetts, Justin, tells me that he's like, he just calls and he says, Mark's dead. And I said, Mark. I asked him, Mark who? I thought he was literally talking about someone else. He's like, Mark Foley's dead. And I said, nah. I said, I just talked to him yesterday morning, last night or whatever. I was like, he's mad. I was like, he ain't dead though. And he's like, dude, I went to dinner there last night, and he called to have me over for dinner. I went over there. Marina was in the kitchen cooking, and the back bedroom door was shut. And she went back there to get him, and the doorknob was locked. And he said she immediately panicked and said that he's never locked the door and all this. So DeLong kicked the door in. He was laying on the bed, and he was already blue. And just from everything I can put together after the fact, basically he lost everything in that traffic stop and was panicking and in a bad place. And he went, I don't think it was like suicide. Like, I really don't. Like, a few people suggested it and stuff like that, but I was like, you just don't know this dude. Like, I think he just thought he was a tank. And then he went down and like cold copped from somebody, and whatever dope he got was strong as shit. And he hadn't done any in 30 days or 25 days or something. And dude was dead and drastically altered my life. His wife, she had a miscarriage. His kid died. He's dead. The town's sad. All his friends are sad. Like I said, a well-known, well-loved human being. He's gone. And then I have a rough year mental health wise off all that. Like at that point, my life was pretty much wrapped up with this dude's life. Like every day, this was my employer, my best friend. I pretty much lived there at that point. Like rarely did I go home. It was just like I said. This person loved me. He loved my family, and he treated me like that. And then his wife moves back to Ohio. He's gone. I have a rough year or so. Eventually come back to California. I've been out here for 6 years. Still kind of never been the same kind of stuff. I still work, but I don't have the drive to own a company anymore, and I just don't have the energy I used to or the strength. Like construction kicks your ass. I was in my late 20s and early 30s, and that potential and everything he saw went unrealized due to financial and personal problems. And his one thing was that we had very much alike was that I always wanted to be a lawyer. He always wanted to be a lawyer. And when he got money, he was like, bro, I'm going to pay for us to go to like law school online or something. And it was always a joke. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, I'm going to see one day if I can do law school online, if I could ever pass the bar. Because that was like that dude's dream. And I always wanted it too. But I always thought I was like too much waste of air. But I'd love to do something like that to honor the memory of like that dude was. Oops, sorry, I don't know. I thought I lost you there for a second. Sorry.
No, I got you.
A lot of experience with like really good people who didn't deserve to die and didn't need to die, that died behind this disease. That dude had a disease. Like he had more money than he knew what to do with, stacked up in piles. They threw all those ones and fives and tens into a damn water jug and saved them for vacation and shit or whatever the fuck. Like he had everything, and that stuff took him. And a lot of other people. I could name probably 7 total. I could name 7 names right off the top of my head of people that I knew personally, that I've hugged, that I've had in my home, and they're dead. And I think I saw the worst of it, but then fentanyl came. And so now I see stuff that I've never seen before. I'm
afraid to relapse because of fentanyl.
Right there with you, because you know what you're dealing with.
When you get a Roxy, you know exactly that it's 30 milligrams. You know there is no. This is the old Roxys. Now the new Roxys, especially the M ones, a lot of them are fake and they're fentanyl pressed, and they're not safe anymore. And that's where I get scared, is because I was addicted to Roxy's blues, and now that they're fake fentanyl pills, and I could die because I used to do giant rails. I would snort 4. I used to snort 4 all in one line, and like it was nothing. And I would put them in a straw. I would do it while I was driving, man. I'd bend my straw. I would drop 4 in there, crush it with my teeth, and then,
I say I've seen that one. I've seen that one once before, but I ain't heard that one very many times. But I did see somebody was like, "This is the best way, bro. Like it's in the straw. You don't lose any."
Yeah,
and then you chew the shit out of the straw afterwards.
I had a whole stash of straws in my center console. McDonald's had the fat straws, and you could fit pills inside the straws.
Yeah, and then definitely that's an affirmative. So McDonald's straws. Yeah.
I would go in there to use their bathroom, and I would take a whole handful of straws and bring it out to my car. But I'm afraid of the fentanyl these days. I haven't touched opiates in over 6 years.
Good for you, bud. That's something to be proud of.
I'm very proud. I hurt my tailbone a few years ago, and they gave me like 6 5s, and I took 4 of them, and then we dumped the other 2.
Good.
So I didn't even take the full script of 6 of them because I didn't feel like I needed them anymore. And I admire people like Steve-O, where he's had like 13 screws put in his ankle, and all he took was Tylenol. And
Yeah, and, so,
because he
and
didn't
like
want
I
to,
said, I would forgive anyone who went through a major surgery or had medical. You know,
yeah,
you got to do what you got to do. If you're in pain, you're in pain. I get it. Somebody like myself, I'm afraid when I go to the doctor that nothing does anything. Like I have a terrifying, and it's been this way my whole career, but I have a terrifying tolerance. Like I don't even say things to people about,
yeah. No, I
oh,
get
I
it.
do 5 pills or something, because I'd be like, yo, like I just am a tank, and I don't know why, and I don't know if it's an additional chemical or mental imbalance or something, but it takes so much to get me fucked up that that's why, because it only takes one bad fentanyl speck that I mean, you can't even fathom how small the speck
I
it
know.
takes to
Yeah,
kill you. So, and we're trusting, whoever to mix these up. Like, nah,
yeah. We're not doctors. It's
I
back
and
in the
I
day.
just
It was
can't
a lot
afford
different.
it. I can't afford to live or exist that way. And my goal has been that the 2 people who were both named Mark Sanders and Mark Foley, were my closest friends I've ever had in my whole life. They've both passed away. They both had addiction. They both aren't with me anymore. And I want to do something at some point that means something. I want other people to be helped too. Like I could see myself doing something in the addiction community, but I just haven't figured it out yet, or what needs to be done, or what space I fit in. But I would love for those 2 people that I spoke on, and the whole, nobody knows them. You got to take my word on it that they were good people, but it was a waste. It was a waste of huge amounts of potential, huge amounts of just having a decent person. He was just such a good person. You
I'm
could
gonna
make
send
him.
you the NA information and the GA information.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send you both because they're really helpful for me.
please. I
I,
have I haven't been in the meeting thing a lot. I felt real judged and picked on in the meetings, and so I've avoided them for years. And I try to do as best as I can. And I still have ups and downs, but in general, especially on the things that are really bad for me, I've done really well the last year.
and I'm
And
gonna
I have a
release
few
this.
little things to
I'm
iron
gonna
out, like
release this on the 12th.
the what?
I'm gonna release this episode on your anniversary on the 12th.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so this way you can celebrate by watching it again. And I appreciate you coming on and telling all your
Yeah.
stories because I know it's never easy to kind of play back the tape and go through all the things that you've been through, and you've been through a lot. And so I appreciate you coming on and being so open and honest about it. You
I
know,
appreciate the opportunity to clear my chest and just say these things, and I am in the middle of the healing process still.
yeah.
Like for me to speak of Mark or either of these 2 people that I cared about so much, um, usually I'd be crying. Like I love these people. They were soldiers. They were drug dealers of a different cloth, and great human beings on top of it. And I hate that they're known. They're dead now, and they're just known because they were bad dudes. They were drug dealers and drug traffickers, and they're known because they had tons of money and were popular, but no one knew they were good human beings. They were dads and husbands, and they had other goals. One wanted to be a lawyer, one wanted to be a welder. Like they wanted to do other things. They just got stuck in this nightmare that we've all got stuck in, and I would like for that not to be in vain. That one day that they figure this shit out, bro. Like they figure out whether it's you know at this point they got Suboxone that lasts like 90 days or whatever. They give you that shot and you're
The Sublocade.
Sublocade. Yeah. Um, I'm fairly confident if you have the money, they have the answers already. You know, you hear of them, they have these treatments, they switch all your blood out and you're immediately sober the next day. You're no withdrawals. They have, you know, they put you in a coma. They have Sublocade. They have Ibogaine treatments and this and that. And so you hope that at least it's changed since I was younger. Because when I was younger, no one even talked about it. People just died. Everyone pretended they just died. And at least now we can speak on it and we can tell people that we do get better. That even if we're not miraculously better always, that we're out here trying. That we're just regular people. We
Yeah.
just have a problem. Some people have their problem with alcohol. Some people got their problem with porn. Some got it with drugs.
Yeah, I've had them all on my show too. Yeah, you're the first one that's talked about after gambling, but I've had somebody addicted to porn on my show early on.
Mm.
Um, I've had drugs, I've had alcohol, sex.
See, for me, drugs, alcohol, and gambling
Yeah,
are, I mean,
those
they
are
go
my
together just so
yeah,
well.
those are my three, and I'm happy that I'm off that train now and abstinent. When I'm in GA, I introduce myself. I'm JD. I'm a compulsive gambler. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict, and if you name it, I'm probably it. And that's how I introduce myself in Gamblers Anonymous, because
Yeah.
I am all three things. I am an alcoholic. I am a drug addict. I am a compulsive gambler. So I'm just really upfront about who I am and where I am.
I think I try to do the same thing just because of how I was taught. Like, it's important to admit these shortcomings. Like, you have to admit them to deal with them.
Yep.
And so at this point, like, I want them dealt with so bad, and I want success in sobriety, and I want to make the people around me proud and all these things. Like, I am an alcoholic, drug addict, gambler. I need help. I currently need help. I'll always need help, and I'm working on it. And
Yep.
it's gonna get better and better, and it's only gotten better. Things have only gotten better. There's
I
nothing
look
that's
forward to
gotten
maybe
worse.
seeing you pop in the NA meetings. It's a really good group.
I'm gonna give it a shot, but I'm definitely, if you
We
send it,
read
I'll
just
be at the next one.
Yeah, we read just for today. We share on it and how it relates to us. It's a good group of people, and I'm going to send you the info.
When's
Um,
the next one?
Tomorrow at noon.
Okay, I'll see you
Noon
tomorrow
East.
at noon.
Yeah, it's Monday through Friday at noon Eastern.
You have no idea how much I appreciate this, because even the other day I was driving and I was like, I want to go to a meeting. I want to do this again and start getting back. I want to get more people in that mindset around me all the time. And I was like, dude, and I got to go home and take off all my work clothes and take a shower. I'm all sweaty and then I'm
Yeah, no,
tired.
I really like the Zoom meeting because I work from 7 to 7,
Ugh,
and I get an hour long lunch break to be able to attend an afternoon meeting every single day.
nice.
So I literally just sent it to you to your Facebook,
Thanks, man.
the Zoom information on how to sign in. And yeah, man, thank you again. I appreciate it, a lot. And hopefully I'll see you this week in NA.
Yeah, have a good day, man.
Have a good day, bud. See ya.
Bye.